Welcome back to Restoration Insider, the show built for restoration business owners who want to grow smarter, compete harder, and build something that lasts. I'm your host, Tenzin Wangjor, and today's guest is someone who's been inside the machine of a restoration franchise brand and then taking those lessons to help smaller businesses compete at that same level. Karen Vick is a digital marketing specialist, brand consultant, and founder of Guiding Brands based out of South Florida. She spent 5 years as the internet marketing manager for one of the largest restoration franchise networks in North America, where she led the redesign of over 250 franchise websites in just 4 months and helped the organization recover 350 working hours a year through smarter digital systems. That work has earned her three Gold Stevie Awards and recognition as a 2022 Woman of Franchising. Today, she runs Guiding Brands, where she helps businesses navigate their path to growth through strategy and creativity. And she's here to talk branding, marketing, and what restoration owners can do right now to stand out. Karen, welcome to the Restoration Insider podcast. Scott, please take it away.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Karen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Yes, so
having
glad
me.
to so glad to have you here as a guest on Restoration Insider. So you and I know each other, so this isn't we're no strangers here. I know a little bit about your background and because we've worked together.
You're right.
But why don't you just tell those who are tuning in a little bit about yourself and your journey and what led you to founding Guiding Brands?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. And thanks, Wangjor, for inviting me to join this call. I it's been a while since we've seen each other, and it's amazing how things come full circle.
Yes.
So, listen, I'm a Toys R Us kid at heart. That's where this all started, believe it or not. I used to be a manager for a local Toys R Us here. And one of my staff, a young man, he was attending the local art institute, and it triggered something in me. It sparked sparked my love of art, design, engineering, creativity. And that combined with my sense of entrepreneurship, which I got from my parents, who were business owners, entrepreneurs themselves in Kingston, Jamaica. I think, just all that flowing through my blood said, okay, you need to do something. And I went to the local art institute, and many moons ago, I won't tell you how far back. You can look it up online. And it just led to me creating what I call Island Design Studio. That's actually my business, and Guiding Brands is an umbrella under that. And my time at PureClean actually led to the naming of Guiding Brands because I found during that time my work involved so much teaching our franchise owners, educating them on marketing, how to better show up, branding, and maintaining the Pure Clean brand was so important. And it just sparked this love of teaching, which I always had in me, because I'm always the one that the family comes to when they need answers to questions about some things. And so that's where Guiding Brands came about. Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
great. I was not aware of what drove the passion for starting that. It's very neat. I love Toys R Us, so that's very cool.
Yeah.
But they're not around anymore, are they? That's a
Well,
shame.
not the full Toys R Us that we know. There
Okay.
are bits and pieces of them in Macy's stores right now and internationally, but it's a shame because
It yes,
yeah, yeah, my son grew up, in a Toys R Us store. I started working there when he was 3 years old. And, it was just always fun to see kids interact and so on. And it also sparked the business side of things for me. So
sure.
I was able to combine, what I learned through working with Toys R Us as a manager with the design side and, all of that critical thinking, all of that
Sure.
in the web design. Yeah.
Looked like the perfect combination for you.
Yes.
Obviously, as we mentioned before, you and I spent time together at PuraClean,
Mhm.
and you were there for 5 years, and during an interesting time, at that time supporting over 250 locations. So, talk a little bit about how that experience helped you understand how the restoration industry really viewed marketing.
So I actually use the word interesting, and I think that's a good word to describe when I entered PureClean. I didn't know a whole lot about the restoration industry. I was introduced to someone from a competitor years before in my networking. And it's not until I actually got in the doors that I actually get a full handle as the scope of restoration itself. And at the time, Pure Clean was actually making some transitions in the way in which they presented themselves, showed up. There's a lot of branding changes that had just happened, and franchise owners were so steeped in, doing the work, they missed opportunities to actually market themselves. And that was actually at the point where we were also in conversation around building a whole new website, developing an online presence for the company and the franchise owners. And that was a really cool time to be a part of the franchise because we launched these 250 websites in 4 months. That was like unheard of, and
Correct.
it really sparked this energy, into the company. And what I learned in that process was, yes, while they wanted to market themselves, the franchise owners had a difficult time in actually figuring out how to do that. How do we now take the shiny new object that we have, these new websites, and actually make it work for us? And that's what we ended up doing, to help them along that journey.
Good. Oh yeah, and listen, I remember that. I remember that time, and you and the team did an amazing job, of course. You keyed in on something in that statement is that you recognize that the franchise owners were so ingrained in the day to day that
Mhm.
sometimes the marketing piece of it just slipped or it was ignored. So thinking about that, what's the number one branding mistake that you see restoration companies make?
Wow. Really good question. I think that there's this big focus on showing the before and after, or more of the before, the disaster. And it's kind of scary to homeowners. And if you focus a lot on that and this work that you're doing, you're missing something because most of the world doesn't know, like, don't know what restoration is. You talk to
Right.
someone now who's never experienced the water damage in their home, who's never experienced, a major mold issue, and you use the word restoration, it goes right over their heads, right?
Sure.
And I think what I saw, and I still see to some degree with a lot of restoration companies, is that they're talking about the work and not really helping the homeowners understand that, maintenance, preventative is actually key to actually you keeping your home safe. And so this is an opportunity, I believe, for restoration companies to actually share not just about, the dangers of what can happen if you experience a flood or, a roof leak or something like that, but what are the steps that you need to take to actually make this less of an issue for you should it happen? Should you have that? What are you supposed to expect? I think that's a big opportunity, and it helps with you then interjecting your personality into your marketing so that it then becomes something that you can sustain over a period of time because you're unique to the
Correct.
other guy down the street, And one other thing that I think is really important is for not just franchise owners, but anybody in the restoration industry to understand when you do have an issue, when you've addressed an issue for a homeowner, it's really great if you then follow up. Say 6 months, a year down the line, put a system in place where you're actually following up. Now you're actually staying top of mind to that owner and you're presenting yourself as not just the person who came in and fixed the damage. You care about them, and then that will actually help you, set yourself apart from the other guy down the street. Yeah.
That is a great reminder.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And even though they were the heroes at that moment.
Hmm.
I think it does resonate well with anybody who's listening that yes, that follow-up is going to be so key, and they probably do miss that opportunity. Looking out at the restoration space, as you're aware, there are several large brand companies, large networks now, more so than there ever have been. And so if there is an independent out there, maybe a smaller independent, medium-sized independent, that how can they compete in the marketplace now from a marketing standpoint with some of that larger, big national branding that's happening?
Oh, wow. Great question. I think and I know that this actually can work for you, okay, because I've seen it. I saw it in those 5 years when I was with Pure Clean. Being embedded in your community. It's not enough. You're not going to compete against those dollars. It's going to be difficult for you. But you are oftentimes in a smaller town or city or a portion of a city, within a zip code, a particular area where you can become a part of that community. Oftentimes you live there, you live and you work in that community. So it's important for you to be at that ground level and work with them because these larger companies, they're far removed. Their marketing is far removed from what happens at the local level. So that means that you get involved, volunteer, donate your time, sponsor events, local baseball league, football league, be everywhere and anywhere in your community. Your vehicles need to be wrapped so that when you're on a job, they can see you, they know who you are, and you just become a part of the community. In combination with all of the other things that you need to do, of course, but community at the local level, that's key. That's key, in my opinion. That's how you
Great.
actually overcome this, the behemoths out there that you feel like you can't compete against. You can. You
Sure.
can.
And the great advice again. And I love that you keyed in on being involved in your local community. Because again, if you look across the nationally, you're not, a restoration company in Middletown, America is not trying or should not be trying to compete with, anybody outside of their marketplace.
Yes,
Focus on that marketplace and find a way to be unique and be a personality within that community.
I
That's
agree. I
great
agree.
information on that. Good reminder. So you know what? Right now, if a restoration owner is basically invisible on Google, or just very minimal, where do they start?
Great, great question. Now you're talking my language, Scott. So, one of the best tools that you can take advantage of, even now in the age of AI, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about AI, but your Google Business Profile, or formerly it was called Google My Business at one point years ago, Google Business Profile. It's a free tool from Google that we have learned over the last 2 years with the advent of AI that AI is actually pulling content from Google Business Profiles to feed the LLMs.
Hmm.
Okay. And now Google has actually been making several updates over the last few months. And one in particular that just came about is their new Google Maps feature. Google Maps actually presents your profile, your Google Business Profile, as well as it does in the typical search results. But the key is that now homeowners or any individual looking for services, products and services out there, they can actually put full on have a full-on conversation with Google Maps, right? And that now is actually pulling even more data from your Google Business Profile. One portion of your profile is your description, and this
Right.
description in the past never really carried a whole lot of weight until now. And we're seeing that Google is actually presenting that information. So having keywords, ensuring that your profile is fully descriptive, that you're getting reviews from your customers,
Yes.
that those things are actually feeding the LLMs and feeding the Google machine. So I believe more than anything else, you start there. If you don't have a website that you've been keeping up with, or you don't have a website at all, just having that presence, because it's geared towards local search. You want to make sure that your profile is up to date. You have your profile, it's been verified, and you've completed all of the features. And one more thing, you want to make sure that you're adding photos. So not photos of just, okay, this before and after picture, photos of your team at work, photos of yourself as a business owner, and video. You want to make sure that you're actually sharing, you know, details about what's happening, and ensure that your brand is visible in these photographs. So your logo, you may have a branded t-shirts that you have your staff wear. Ensure that they're in these photographs. You don't have to show their faces if you don't want to, but you want to make sure that you're not using stock photos, and you're not using just the photos of jobs. You want to actually present yourself to Google as a real company with real people doing the real work. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great answer. And you know what? If anybody's ready to start, Karen, you just gave some amazing information.
Yep.
You did mention AI, and I know
Yes.
that is such a hot topic everywhere right now.
Hmm.
But for right now, today, this week,
Hmm.
where is AI actually useful for a restoration company?
So a lot of people, a lot of the average person out there thinks that ChatGPT is it for AI, right? That's all they're
Right.
hearing. That's all. That's the first tool that actually democratized artificial intelligence, because it's been around. You've been using it and you didn't know it. Like if you use Siri, you've been using AI. If you use Grammarly, you've been using AI long before ChatGPT came on the scene. But there are other tools. So Gemini with Google, Claude from Anthropic, all of these tools are out there. But the key is not for you to just sit there and just talk to this thing. What you want to do is you want to make these tools become your marketing partner, your marketing person. So you're going to ask it to help you create a marketing campaign, scheduling your posts for you, creating content that will resonate with your audience. That's what you want to use it for. You want to have it save time, because you're going to need time to go out and do the work that you do. You're not going to have, time. And I know that's a big challenge for everybody out there, to spend a whole lot of time on marketing. But if you can save some time, that's what these tools will benefit you with. You will actually be able to shave off some time by using the tools to help you with scheduling your post, creating material that you need to, and staying top of mind.
Well, great information. And as you pointed out, so many restoration owners are so busy with a lot of things, building their business, taking care of customers. So maybe they need to reach out to a professional like you. Why don't you tell us, how can people find you and work with you?
Well, as you can see over what is this, my right shoulder, my shoulder here, Guiding Brands. You can search guidingbrands.com. You can just go to guidingbrands.com. I also host the Guiding Brands podcast, where you can learn, get tips and tricks on how you can actually, establish your marketing, do better in your marketing, branding tips, and so on. I interview a lot of people across the industry, the design and marketing industry, as well as outside. Okay. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. That's primarily the social media platform that I am on. You can just search Guiding Brands, or search for Karen Vick Guiding Brands on LinkedIn. That's how you can find me. And
Fantastic.
yeah, so I'll just, subscribe to the Guiding Brands podcast, and you'll get a taste of who I am a little bit more as well.
Well, wonderful. You've given us some amazing information. I know this was just a short conversation, but thank you so much for carving out time for us. I enjoyed catching up with you and having this conversation and sharing your expertise with our audience. And really appreciate catching up with you again, Karen. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks. It was a pleasure. And I hope that the audience gained some insight in how they can actually stand out from the crowd, compete against the big guys, and, become a part of your community. Lead with compassion, lead with care, and ingrain yourself in your community. And I'm sure you're going to see a big difference. Okay.
Wonderful way to wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonjour, all yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Karen, thank you so much for your time today. This was a genuinely valuable conversation, and I know our listeners are walking away with a lot more to think about. And if you want to connect with Karen or learn more about her work, like she said, head over to guidingbrands.com. The links will be in the show notes. And if you're a restoration business owner looking to grow your team without the overhead, Restoration Insider is brought to you by Karma Staff. Karma Staff specializes in providing skilled remote employees specifically for the restoration industry. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Karen. And see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having
All
me.
right.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, that was fun.